Okay. Hi, everyone. Shh. How are you all today? Good? Okay. So, good afternoon, students, faculty, and our panelists. You are in the management panel, if you don't know where you are, but that's where you are. We have a lovely lineup for you guys here today. We have Kristin right there. You want to raise your hand in the middle? Jim right there on the end, and Heather right here. And our other, Michelle, our other panelist, will hopefully be joining us in a little bit. So first of all, we want to say thank you to our panelists that are here for generously sharing your time and insights. Thank you. And some housekeeping rules for the students. If you are here for the panel, you must remain here for the whole entire panel. You can't leave halfway through. If you're claiming this on your learning passport, you should have gotten a survey when you walk through the door. You'll need to fill that out. You know how all that goes already. I know I don't need to say this, but please be respectful when other people are speaking, whether that be another student asking a question or a panelist answering a question. As well, we ask that you stay off your phones. And then at the end of the 8 questions that we have prepared for the panelists, you in the audience will have an opportunity to ask your own questions, so hold on to those tight. And without further ado, we will move on into the questions. So, question number 1. Please briefly describe the organization you work for and your position. Start with you, Heather. That's on.
So my name is Heather Kajanovich. I work for RBC. I've been with the organization for about 27 years in a variety of different management roles, both in project management. I did a number of years in Toronto in our national office. I worked in product management. I worked in our strategic planning group, and I'm working now in the field. I've worked in our retail branch management and as a retail coach as well. So I've seen a broad spectrum of different kinds of management roles across the organization, across those number of years. And I think I enjoy the job I have now the most because I have a permanent team that I get to lead and develop and coach. But I'm happy to talk about all those other experiences that I've had out in Toronto as well today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Your mic.
Right, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kristin Williams. I'm the president and CEO of Junior Achievement of Nova Scotia. We're a nonprofit organization with a mission to prepare young people for the global economy. We have programs in financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and workforce readiness. I've been with the organization for 4 years, and the last 4 years have been a busy time for JA. We've actually become the fastest growing charter in Canada. We've tripled our program offerings, and we've expanded our core delivery. We've also increased our annual revenues by nearly 50%, so it's been a very, very busy time for JA. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more about that. Prior to JA, I was the executive director of the Nova Scotia SPCA. I've been in the nonprofit sector for about 10 years. Before that, I spent about 12 years in the corporate sector, so I made a pretty significant shift in my career about 10 years ago. I'm also an active volunteer. I'm the immediate past chair of the Community Council for Nova Scotia, which is an organization that manages the labor market interests for the nonprofit sector. And I was recently appointed to the advisory board for the Centre for Employment Innovation, which is out of St. FX. I'm also a PhD candidate, so when I'm not busy raising my 2 kids and doing all this wonderful volunteer work and all that great stuff, I'm working on my PhD in management. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Hepworth. I'm a director of community programs and services with the Confederacy Mainland Mi'kmaq. We are a tribal council based out of Millbrook, Nova Scotia. We work with 7 communities in mainland Nova Scotia. We deliver a wide variety of services and programs, anything from health to conservation, economic development, membership. The list goes on. I wish I'd brought a little sheet that I could show you all the positions. We started off with about 5 employees 30 years ago. We're up to 70 employees now. We are funding based mostly through the federal government as a not-for-profit. We do receive also some provincial funds and corporate. In my history with CMM, I actually started off as an ECDev advisor, and I became a director about 15 years ago. I would say that as a tribal council, the main thing that we do is deliver services and programs, and it's all about our membership and their needs and wants. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question for this afternoon was, how has your education and experience led you to your current position? We can start with whoever would like to begin.
Sure. So my background, actually, I did my undergrad in psychology and English, which doesn't appear to be related to management at all. Although I would say that insight into people's behaviors and motivations has been invaluable in management. I then, of course, when I started working for RBC, did a number of post-grad accreditations around financial management and financial planning accreditations, which gave me the business acumen and ability to lead from a strategic standpoint that was necessary for that particular line of business. But I would say that diversity of backgrounds from an education standpoint has probably been one of the most valuable experiences that I've had, because when you are in management and leading people, that ability to understand and to motivate people and to help inspire them and help them adapt to change is clearly something that a background in psychology is certainly very helpful for. So I would say having a balance or a diversity of background of education is tremendously helpful in management as well.
So my educational path was not a direct line. In fact, my first business degree will be my PhD. I did my undergrad in critical cultural and historical studies, and my master's is in interdisciplinary studies. So I really felt like my education was a bit of an indulgent track for me, and I was quite surprised to find myself in management and in business. With that said, my education served me very well, particularly to develop me as a critical thinker. And I think that a commitment to lifelong learning is an exceptional path to take, regardless of which stage you are at your life. And like Heather, I also continued to take advantage of professional development opportunities throughout my career. And those were wonderful for sort of targeted learning, particularly if I was advancing in a particular position or I wanted to develop a specific skill set. I did so actually in both governance and leadership, and I also did so in sciences when I was with the SPCA. So there's always an opportunity for education to play a pretty critical role in your life in terms of developing your career interests and giving you opportunity for advancement.
So my education and experience has led to my current position in the sense that I went to St. Mary's, did my Bachelor's of Commerce degree. When I had completed that, I actually went back and did my HR certificate. I started at the Confederacy as an economic development advisor working on community projects. After several years working there, we did an organizational realignment, and that's when I moved into my director's position. It is something that so I'll throw this out there too. My boss is my cousin, but there's no nepotism at our organization. So I just want to put that out there in case anybody ever looks up who I am and where I work. I just think that working in my community and for other communities has been just something that I always wanted to do. And it was just really advantageous that the economic development position came up and that we did the restructure with respect to having directors within the organization because of its growth. Thank you.
Thank you. So Michelle, in the end, has just joined us. Thank you, Michelle, for coming today. No worries about any of it. I'm sure everyone in this room can relate to how difficult it is to park at this university.
Yeah, could you just put out like positive parking, no ticket vibes? Because feeling a little stressed about that.
No, we're glad you're here.
Thanks.
So just to catch you up with everyone, the first question just asked the panel to introduce themselves, their organization, and their position there. And then the second question related to how your education and experience has brought you to this position. So if you just want to give a cap on that.
Okay, sorry for being late, I apologize. I am Michelle Thomason. Presently, I'm Director of Organizational Health and Professional Services for the provincial government, Department of Labor and Advanced Education. Our provincial government, you may not know, has 19 different departments. We need you. We need you. My department is responsible for the youth initiative, which is hugely important. If you are 18 to 34, the government wants you. My education, I would actually have to say brownies, when I was like 6 years old, has led me, really began my education around what does service mean? What does it mean to be of service? And so I'm a proud Mount graduate. I'm a proud Dal graduate. I'm doing my PhD presently at St. Mary's. I'm just trying to get like a sweatshirt from every university. And I think there's a whole bunch of formal education, right? So this engagement, but then for me, what's more, not more, but equally important is what's your passion? What's your connection? What do you value? What has meaning? So that's your own education, right? So whatever you get in the classroom, and then whatever you're connecting with, that's to me true learning, and that is your path. And in the government, we are really, really interested in engaging in youth. So if you ever want to talk about how your education can actually connect into work in the government, I would love to speak further to that.
Thank you. Question number 3 for this afternoon. Sorry. What are your career goals, and are you doing what you planned to do? We can start with whoever would like to begin. Any volunteers?
Sure. We'll stay very organized in our flow here. This question made me laugh because I definitely did not join RBC as an organization with a clear career path, and from what I'm hearing already from some of the other panelists, that may be the case with them as well. What I did know that I wanted to do was always stay challenged and always be doing something different. And I think early in my career I had about a 12 to 18 month expiry date on any job or role that I took on. And I just wanted to keep learning new things. I love the point that you made about continual learning and lifelong learning, because I think that will help keep you not just competitive, but keep you abreast of how things are changing in the environment around you. And by taking advantage of that continual learning throughout my career, I just found that new opportunities and new doors opened, and there was new things to try. And I was always willing to try something, even if I didn't initially think that it was something I might enjoy. If I think about, am I doing what I had planned to do, I would say what I've learned along the way was that I really loved leading people and driving a tangible result, or seeing something through to completion and success. And so from that standpoint, I would say I am doing what I love to do, because as much as I've loved many of the experiences I've had, whether it's working in operations, technology, in strategic planning, actually having a team of people and watching them develop and being accountable for a set of goals and sort of having a finish line to cross as a team is what I've learned throughout my career that I absolutely love the most. So I guess I am doing what I had planned to do, although I had no idea that's what I wanted to do at the time that I embarked on this journey.
Well, some might argue I'm way off track. When I was in grade 9, I wanted to be an archaeologist, so that's not going very well. But I am doing also what I love. I really, when I started my family, I became keenly interested in making a contribution to my community, and wanting my kids to be proud of me. And that's quite frankly when I made that transition from the corporate world to the nonprofit world. And I would argue that there is obviously that opportunity to do that in the corporate world as well. But I was really interested in being on the ground where social justice happens. And I can see just such incredible work happening at community organizations around the province and across the country. And there's so many incredible mandates and missions that are out there that need support from young people, either as volunteers or as individuals who want to enter the nonprofit sector. I didn't really know at first which mission or mandate spoke to me, so I volunteered at quite a lot of different organizations and ultimately found originally a passion in animal welfare. And that led actually to a passion worth working with youth. So my interest in working with vulnerable populations has been pretty consistent. And I've really enjoyed, quite frankly, taking skill sets that are consistent both in the corporate sector and the nonprofit sector and applying it to a new and different mission and mandate. Because arguably managing a nonprofit is pretty similar between the SPCA and JA. But the learning curve that happens with how the actual mission is executed is quite different. I have a small team of 11, which some of you might be surprised to hear is actually considered a large nonprofit in Nova Scotia. I have 750 active volunteers who give of their own time and their own talent to deliver our programs both in the community and in the classroom. So I feel very blessed and very lucky to have the opportunity to work with people who are passionate about helping communities. So yes, in that sense, I'm absolutely where I should be. Am I doing what I thought I'd be? Maybe not. Maybe a little bit better.
My career goals. So I think you all remember I just said my cousin was my boss. So I have no career goals to become my boss because he's my cousin. And this is being recorded and broadcast, so I don't want him to be listening to this saying that that's where I want to go. I would say just really my career goals was to move from the ec dev position to the senior director position. But it's to also ensure that I'm delivering the services and programs that we do deliver to the communities, to work as well as I can with my staff, and just ensure that as a tribal council that we maintain our strength with respect to programming and staffing for the communities. Thank you.
Career goals, no. I had no idea that this would be happening, which is really, to me, a fun adventure, this life. When I began in government, I actually began government as an editor. I was asked to do some editing and proofreading for some documents, created a relationship with a particular division within a branch, within a department, and then found out that they were looking for somebody in adult education. So I unexpectedly entered the public service, and it's such a home now, but the way that I entered was unexpected, and my route within the work that I'm presently doing versus what I started doing, again, a route. And I think, I don't know, show of hands, who knows, do you have a career clear? In this room, do you know what you want to be right now? Do you have a vision? There's not a hand, there's a sort of hand. There's okay. So, okay, majority, you don't know, and it's okay, right? So I think for me, once I entered into the public service, and that really, really connected with my values, right? So being of service. Then I found, I was at one point, the GED administrator for the province of Nova Scotia working in adult education. I'm now dealing with facilities-related issues like fire ants in New Glasgow. Who knew that this would be part of my job? But because I'm curious, because I am interested in challenge, because I want to be of service, those drivers, my values, I have found ways for my work to connect with what I value. And so that's the secret sauce, right? So you'll see 10 jobs when you leave here and go online. You'll see 10 jobs, but what of those 10 jobs, which resonate with your values? Because that's like a life calling versus put in my time. So please don't put in your time. That happened a lot in the past in government. Where civil service has changed. So if you are open to exploring possibility, am I getting paid by the public service to tell you to join the public service? I'm not, but you really should. We need youth. We need underrepresented groups. We need energy into the public service, and I hope it's something you're thinking about. Did I answer the question? Career. Am I where I thought it? Nope, I'm not, but very happy.
Thank you. Question 4. Can you tell us about the types of jobs that are available within your organization for students looking for a career or co-op? We could start with Heather.
Sure. Yeah, so I actually have this conversation a lot with graduates because I'm on part of the hiring committee for Metro Halifax. And certainly if you're looking at entering RBC as an organization with a view to leadership and management, there's a few different paths to take. Obviously within Atlantic Canada here, there's different paths than if you're geographically mobile and you're able to go across the country or to Toronto, where we have our national office. But even within Atlantic Canada here, we've got probably two solid routes into future management positions, one being through the branch network, coming in as an advisor and learning the business and building your expertise from that standpoint. But we definitely coach people into leadership roles through that avenue. One thing that's important to us as an organization is that everybody has a development plan and they've got a path for where they want to go, whether it's in the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Where do you see yourself? And what do we need to do to support you to get there? Whether, again, it's that continual learning, gaining accreditations, or gaining that on-the-job experience or exposure to different activities that are going to help you build towards those leadership or management positions. And I'm very proud of that as an organization. And I'm going to put my recruitment hat on as well here because we need new people. We need younger people joining our organization. And we'll talk in a future question about what are some of the key skills and important skills you need to excel and take on management positions later. But that's definitely one avenue into management within RBC. We also, over the last few years, have added a brand new facility here in Bedford, what we're calling our Shared Service Center, and that is quickly becoming a hub for a number of our head office functions and roles. So there's a whole nother stream of coming in sort of more from an analytical, like as an analyst or into a number of different groups that are out there now, which could definitely have paths into leadership and management as well. So that really opens up a lot of exciting new opportunities for people to join the organization who perhaps aren't really interested in that advisor or more sales-oriented kind of role within the branch network dealing with clients. These are very, very different kinds of roles that require different skill sets and inclinations in terms of what you enjoy and what you're good at. So within Atlantic Canada, I'd say those are the two main avenues into management within RBC. Of course, if you're willing to go to Toronto, that opens up a whole nother world in terms of areas and functions and what have you as well. But I won't dwell too much on that here today.
So the nonprofit sector, I want to give you a little context first in terms of how it operates in Nova Scotia. We have roughly 6,000 community organizations in the province, which is quite a lot, but only 1/5 of them actually have the physical capacity to have staff teams, and the majority of those are under 10. So really, the nonprofit sector is quite a challenge to break into from a staffing standpoint. And so there are a couple of avenues that I would recommend. One is volunteer. Organizations look very closely at those who volunteer with them because it demonstrates knowledge of the programs, it demonstrates interest in the cause, it demonstrates a capacity to learn and grow and be of service. So volunteering is quite frankly a very good place to start, and I will tell you that many organizations, ours included, will look to our volunteers when we are hiring. The other avenue is the opportunity to do cooperative placements with nonprofits. Many nonprofits rely quite significantly on cooperative placements to fill roles, whether it's hiring from business departments or PR departments or tourism. Really, we are looking for students who bring a strong level of, good writers, good speakers, people who are better at social media, quite frankly, than we are. Those are all really great skills, and you can quickly demonstrate your value to an organization through one of those opportunities. So if you do have a cooperative placement coming up, consider a nonprofit. I think it's an excellent way to go. In terms of other things that will better prepare you for an opportunity in the nonprofit sector, I have 3 recommendations. Obviously, the first is to volunteer. Volunteer for as many organizations that speak to you, that call to you. Secondary, if in terms of volunteering, don't just get programmatic experience. Don't just volunteer in terms of frontline service. Consider a governance role. Consider getting on a board. You might right now think you're not qualified to serve on a board, but you might be surprised to learn that many organizations will value a young person's perspective. And JA actually has a designated role on our board for an alumni who's currently attending post-secondary. It is a fantastic opportunity to learn about things ranging from strategic decision making to policy to leadership, and it looks amazing on your resume. And the final thing is to, if you possibly can, every nonprofit is looking for people with experience fundraising. So we can also qualify if you're looking for transferable skills to fundraising, like maybe you've never done an event before or you've never raised money for someone before. Business development skills and sales skills are very transferable. And that is a very tangible skill set to offer up to a nonprofit.
Great comments. Yeah, so everything she said I was going to say. Basically, again, as a tribal council, we deliver a wide variety of services and programs, and so I'll just throw out some of the jobs that we do have or that we offer at CMM. We have people that are employed with business degrees, archaeology, administration, biology, accounting, different health, diabetes, counseling, social work. We have different people employed with mental health programs, research, communications. So we have a wide variety of services and programs that we offer. So it's not just like we're narrowly focused on certain things. I really like the comments that you expressed that, we've done the summer employment programs. We've brought on students in co-ops and stuff like that. We're always advertising. Sometimes, unfortunately, though, we are limited to funding that is, based on 1, 2, 3 years, et cetera. That's just the way the market is sometimes with that. But as a student looking for employment, I'd say to be constantly researching what it is that you're looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, you're getting great advice. Are you going to remember it? Nobody's taking notes, but I'm old, so I would never remember what people have said, but really good advice, right? So how you volunteer, your social media capacity, transferable skills, all of that stuff is valued and looked at, right? When you're presenting your resume. Co-op opportunities absolutely exist in the government, the provincial government. We have co-op, we have interns all the time. And the scope, right? So I've looked at 40 resumes before from students. I'm thinking particularly in DAL, the MPA program, but there was just this wonderful variety. So, okay, we're doing marketing, okay, that person has that experience. So the government, the capacity of, as I said, 19 departments, my one department, we are responsible for apprenticeship, right? So apprentices getting ready into the workforce, skills and learning branch, which is huge. Again, getting folks to work through adult education, return to work, graduate opportunities, the higher education, so dealing with universities. So there's economists in the corporate policy branch, there's policy positions, so there's really innovative roles in developing curriculum, and there's also very, at your desk focused in on data analysis, right? So there's just such a breadth of possibilities in my one department, and we are, as I mentioned, 19 in the province, so huge opportunities. And the entryway for me is a trick because you will be one potentially of 150 people for one job. That is our reality. So how do you stand out? How do you get in the way that volunteering is highly recommended for nonprofit, that recognition, an entryway into the government can be doing term work or casual work, right? So it gets you in the door, you get a chance to showcase your skills, and then you see what other opportunities are available within. I think, obviously the government website is where you see upcoming opportunities. I wish I want to give you the magic entryway in, the key in, but it really depends on your background. I highly recommend if you can do the co-op, if you're interested in government, if you can get a co-op in government, that's a super entry, because then you're seen, right? Then you're attached to a project or a program, and people, oh yeah, she's got that great skill, she can do this, or he was so instrumental in helping us move this forward. So you get known, right? Which is a key piece. So yeah, no magic ticket, but definitely lots and lots of opportunities.
Thank you. Question number 5 for this afternoon. What do you see as key management skills needed to manage organizations today?
This is a great question, and I had to pick 4. I narrowed it down to 4. After a couple of decades in management, I would say I've seen these things change over the years, but the one that has remained constant is that ability to think big picture and to think strategically, because that is going to give you the ability to articulate to your team. It's going to give you the ability to see the future of where your business is going and how it needs to change. But that's something that's really critical for a management position, is that ability to think strategically and to look at the big picture and understand that and lead from there. Certainly adaptability, the ability to adapt to change and lead through change, is something that was always important but is now critical. The pace of change that I have seen over the last 10 years in particular is just mind-boggling, and where we used to perhaps see a few big changes a year in an organization, now we're seeing a few big changes a month. And a lot of that's driven by technology, a lot of it's driven by changing consumer behavior and desires, but your ability to just be able to pivot and change and move with what's a new direction or where things are going, but also then bring a team through that as well, absolutely critical in a management role. Third, I would pick is coaching. Again, that ability to develop and to motivate your employees, to keep them engaged, keep them energized. That's critical in any organization or any management role. And then the fourth one I picked is that ability to prioritize what's important. All jobs, all organizations are busy, to say the least. You're going to be flooded with decisions to make on how to use your time on a daily basis, and I used to describe it as I manage my time down to the minute. What is the best possible use of the next minute in front of me, and am I doing the highest impact or highest priority task with that minute? And that involves being able to sometimes put aside things that still need to be done, still might be important, but aren't going to have necessarily that strategic lift or that impact on your people or that impact on your clients, whoever they are, as something else that might be distracting you or bothering you, whether it's a report or an email or a ringing phone or what have you. So big picture, be adaptable to change, be a great coach, and prioritize your time and manage your time ferociously are the 4 key management skills that I would pick.
I really like Heather's suggestions. I think they're bang on. I wanted to talk a little bit about what I think is absent in terms of what I have seen and had in terms of my teams, and what I think is an opportunity to make a contribution where it might help you stand out. People skills are a key priority that I see as being necessary regardless of the level you're working at within an organization. And how that manifests typically is the ability to communicate well, to communicate persuasively, and to communicate with both confidence and humility. And it is something that I think is a lifelong pursuit in terms of developing, and it's something that you shouldn't wait to work on. You should work on immediately, and I think that will serve you well in any organization. This is still, unfortunately, a province that is conducted on who you know, and your networks play a significant role in how you might advance or how you might learn about opportunities. So your people skills are going to give you a tremendous advantage if you want to leverage the networks that you develop.
Thank you. It's so hard going after these ladies because they're making such great comments, and so is Michelle. So I guess what I just wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you want to say key management skills or just key management duties, responsibilities with us as a not-for-profit is around the program administration area, which is the budgeting, reporting, the financial piece, the personnel, human resources. I guess until I became a manager, I didn't realize how much I would have for interaction with my employees. And it's not just all work related. A lot of it's just talking with them because I hope I don't say this wrong. We all have like problems. We all have issues. Everything isn't about work. And I think that as a manager, you have to be prepared that if you're going to become a manager, that this is one of the functions that you'll do, that you'll have an employee come in sometimes and sit down and talk to you about an illness in their family, somebody passing away. The compassion piece there is huge. So, I just think that it's one of the big things that's out there today. Maybe it wasn't so much years ago. I remember my bosses when I was younger, because I'm a little bit older now, but when I was younger and I first started working for organizations, they're kind of mean. They didn't talk to you too much, or they definitely wouldn't sit down and just have a conversation about what was going on in your life. But I do believe that that's part of the environment that we operate in now. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I've certainly seen a change from this command control, do this, get it done by 4, this way of managing. It's definitely shifting into that more relational, that coaching. I think what I would like to add to the excellent advice you received would be, how do you manage yourself, right? So how are you actually managing yourself before you walk in the door of your job? And that is work, right? So that is your work on how you want to show up, how you want to lead. So if you're actually dealing with stuff at home, how do you not bring that into the workplace in a way that affects, right? Because there's that ripple effect when you're off. And that again is that lifelong, for me, that is a journey. I'm 49 and I'm still working it out, right? So I have a team. This morning I had a conversation, one of my staff member is working off site today, and she flagged something for me, but my head was over here in forecasting and I didn't hear her. But I circled back after I finished the forecasting fun and called her and I said, thank you so much for grabbing that for me. I didn't hear you. And she said, yeah, I knew you weren't quite yourself, right? Because she didn't know I was deep in forecasting. So it's just like my self-awareness and then building those relationships with your team so that people are actually supporting you to support them. It can be quite a beautiful thing. But I would, again, emphasize everything you've heard, but also, how do you manage yourself? How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage your processing stress? How do you manage your sleep? How are you nourishing yourselves? Who had Halloween candy last night? Who has a chocolate hangover right now? Right? So that actually matters, right? It matters. So that self-care, that self-management is huge. And there's tons of resources, free resources, podcasts, coaching, all sorts of supports for you to continue to develop that. But I would really encourage you to be aware of your self-management as you enter into management roles.
Thank you for all those lovely answers. Question 6. So as we've already touched on briefly, and this tends to, and as we have already noticed, this is a problem that most students face. Many students struggle when deciding on what career to pursue. What advice would you have for a young person who cannot decide their career path?
Well, I think we've all validated that. That's perfectly okay for all of you. My advice around this would be to just try something and see where it leads, because that's really kind of how I feel like I had an accidental career. I really did not have a vision of staying with RBC, and 28 years later, here I am. But also be open to every opportunity that presents itself. and be brave and try it. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to keep doing it. You know, I moved out to Atlantic Canada 10 years ago from Toronto. I thought, well, if I don't like it in 5 years, apparently the rat race in Toronto will still be there, and I could still go back to that. And I'm still here. But it's about that openness to just to try new things. I think you've raised a lot of great points about volunteering and how that can maybe help you find a passion around things. It'll also help you build a network to be able to try new things or pursue new opportunities, or even just learn about different things that people do that they've become passionate about. But it's really about just being open-minded. I think something we coach our people to a lot as well is, you know, we call them swim lanes. There's a whole bunch of different sort of streams of expertise and knowledge and skill that you can build even within one organization. It doesn't have to be a straight upwards path like it used to be, I think, back when we started our careers. You know, you had to climb the corporate ladder and that was it. You might make many sort of lateral or slightly upward and lateral moves throughout your career. You'll build your resume, you'll build your expertise, but you'll also probably find that it's a lot more rewarding because you're learning new things and challenging yourself in new ways, but you're also broadening your perspective and helping to give yourself that big picture thinking. That's tremendously helpful in that, exposing yourself to just different environments, different areas, even within the same organization.
I think to Heather's point, the nonprofit sector also offers you that opportunity to explore diversity inside of a single role even, because largely you have a broader portfolio when you're in the nonprofit sector by virtue of limited resources, if nothing else. But I do want to step back and sort of say, first of all, I want to make a plea for you to stay in Nova Scotia and keep your talent here. I'm a big proponent of labor attachment, and I think that we need our youth to build their futures here, and I think there is tremendous potential here. What I would offer is that you play a detective role, and you get to know the industries and professions that are of interest to you, and you do some myth busting. You really need to dismiss some romantic notions about different careers and opportunities and really start to try to understand what the day-to-day realities of different roles are. You can do that through conversation, you can do it through volunteering, you can do it through exploration. I think there's a lot of romanticism about the nonprofit sector, and rightly so. We do fantastic work and it's extremely rewarding, but it's also very challenging. And in terms of working in the nonprofit sector, it's very competitive. It's also a gendered sector. It's 87% female in Nova Scotia, 75% female across the country. Labor studies have shown that it's a highly educated sector, so you're typically competing with individuals with advanced degrees for arguably less compensation. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. You should do similar inquiries into other sectors so that you know what you're getting into. And you need to think about the quality of life that you want for your future. What do you want your day-to-day to be? Do you want to be able to go watch your kids play soccer? Do you want to be able to take a trip every year to a destination? These are the kinds of things that you need to consider when you're making life choices about career.
Okay. I guess my advice would be, over the years, I've seen people come into different positions in the organization, and you can tell that they're not happy. They don't want that job. Like, it was something maybe that when they were younger, they're pushed into that field, like their parents wanted them to do it or their partner or whatever. So I guess, to be short and sweet about it is do something that you want to do, something that's going to make you happy, not something that is because somebody, wanted you to do it. It's not going to work. And at the end of 20 years, you'll be looking back saying, what was I doing with this? Like, you got to find something that's going to bring you, that enjoyment with respect to positive things coming out of the work that you perform. That's it. Thank you.
I've only met one person in my life who knew what they wanted to do. It was my daughter. When she was like 5 years old, she's like, "Mommy, I want to be on stage." And God love her, she's 24, and she's pursuing it. That is her world. She's the only person I have ever met who has been able to actually like name it and do it and proceed like that. So the advice around exploring and questioning and getting to know yourself and reaching out and having new experiences, like, yeah, absolutely. But there is the to thine own self be true. So do you actually want to sit at a desk every day? And like a lot of people really do. That is complete. Do you want to get your hands dirty? Do you want to be outdoors? Like, these are really basic questions, but know them, right? Like, I knew somebody who pursued a degree in, I forget she worked in natural resources. She actually didn't like to be outside in the winter, right? So it's like, okay. So now she's actually looking at a different job, right? Like know yourself. Do you want to make a lot of money? Like, are you driven by achieving a whole bunch of money? Do not come to the government for that. You come to the government, have a side hustle, right? So like, what is your passion? Not just literally like how you want to spend your days, but what are your goals? And we're really smart and have great advice for you, as do books, as does the internet, as does anywhere you look. But it's you figuring out what is right for you. I think which is me pushing the question back on you. But there's just tons of ways to get to know yourself better as you are pursuing your route in the working world. But tons of opportunity. I really appreciate, I want to emphasize, like, Nova Scotia we want you to stay in Nova Scotia. We need you to stay in Nova Scotia. And the government is, that's part of the platform. You would have heard to a youth initiative that lives in my department. So it's not just talk, like we are looking for youth. But know yourself and know that it's a long road.
Perfect. That was some great advice. I hope you guys are taking notes. So question number 7, what do you like most about your work? What do you dislike about your work? And what do you find most challenging?
I'm going to say that what I love most about my work is definitely the people development. And so helping people develop and grow and move down those paths that they want to move down. And watching them get accreditations or get promoted or what have you. That is certainly the most rewarding part of my job. The second piece would be that team element, that working together as a team to achieve a goal and being successful and winning. I definitely have a competitive streak. I'm a little bit type A, so I do really enjoy that aspect of the job as well. What I don't like about my job, and I'm just going to be honest because you're going to find this in any organization, when you're in management, there is going to be paperwork and administration and stupid processes and technology that lets you down and annoys you. That's just kind of part of the work environment as well, right? I don't like it. It is what it is. It is getting better all the time, but that's just going to be a reality of management, is you will have some tasks that you don't enjoy doing, but you have to do. The most challenging piece then, I think, is how do you find a balance between those two? And that's where I'll just refer you back to my earlier comments about just being meticulous about how you manage your time and how you prioritize your time. And am I making sure every day that the first thing I do is spend time with my people, is spend time with clients, is doing things that are strategically more important for my business. But am I also then making time at the end of the day for the things that need to be done, the things that will keep me from getting fired, that are necessary evils? I don't like them, but they've got to be done as well. So always finding that balance of your daily routines and being able to be really strong and structured about that is probably the most challenging aspect for a lot of managers, I would say, in whatever business sector or field that you choose to be in. I think those are commonalities across a variety of different industries within management.
So I have a huge advantage in the nonprofit sector because I get to see how the passion of a cause converts into action and activity in people. And it's so amazing to see things happen that I didn't think were possible. So much so that I've stopped trying to develop what I think are boxes around our activities, because I'm continually surprised at what our staff team is capable of, what our volunteers are capable of, and what our students are capable of. So that's really an amazing environment to work in. And it affects not just having an emotional reaction to the very incredible things that our kids do through our programs, but it's just very rewarding working for people who are passionate about what they do. And I think we have that over some other sectors. I think that's an edge that we have. In terms of what I don't like doing, even as president and CEO, 90% of what I do is finding the money. It is hard work. It is hard work. And it is obviously fundamental to making sure we have the resources to do what we do best in community, helping youth. So that I've never been able to divorce that from my activity, and we've doubled in size as an organization in the last 3 years, and it's still 90% of what I do. So I haven't remedied that. The only other challenge that comes with finding the money is balancing the interests of a very broad group of stakeholders who all have ideas about how that money should be spent. So it's a continual juggling of, what's in the best interest of the kids, what are the funders' interests, and trying to be a very good negotiator somewhere in the middle.
Again, like most about working for my organization is that I work in my community and I work for other communities. I really like a lot of the individuals in the organization. I'm not just talking about my unit, my staff, but we have a really good environment with our organization. We do a lot of things, which I don't want to get into too much right now because obviously I think we have a time thing, but it's really good to be able to see as well, your staff advance and do good things with respect to how their service delivery is working out, and as they go through their own PD cycle within the organization, just to see how that's a benefit to them and their service delivery to the communities. And most dislike and most challenging, and I think it's been said, is just funding. Every year it's a battle with funding, and the worst part about the funding is you're losing the programming, but sometimes you are losing staff as well. A lot of times when you lose the programming, and that's a hard part, especially when somebody's been with the organization for years and they cannot maintain in their current position. Thank you.
I love the people I work with. So I've told you I really value being of service, and I'm really creative. And in my role, I'm able to be creative, right? So I'm responsible for facilities for 21 offices across the province. Okay, so what can we do to make that work better? So I get to think and problem solve. So I love that. It's very challenging. It's very, it's invigorating. So, and it taps into something that's really fun for me, which is creativity. And then working with the team and seeing your team like, oh, that person is so good at X. This one, they really are thriving. Just having that awareness and working with whoever your team is. I would have to say what is most challenging is like right now my iPhone, I have like a twitch because I want to check it. I want to see the emails coming in. They come in, 8 at night. They start at 6 in the morning. I'm getting ready for storms, which I'm going to be looking at the weather for the next few months around, office closures, et cetera. So I would have to say, that the constant pressure is, I love it, but I also hate it too. So, the challenge of work. What? Is that good?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. So the last question that we have for this afternoon before we open it up to you guys in the audience is, how can university students best prepare themselves for success in today's business world if they want to pursue a management position?
So I've got 3 things I think it's important to focus on or prepare yourself for success. One is focus your learning and your development on some of those bigger picture skills or softer skills. So that ability to think strategically and think big picture, but also that ability to understand and to motivate people, develop your EQ, your AQ, all of those, sort of broader big picture skills, I'll call them. Number 2, keep abreast of technology and how technology is going to impact consumers and business and that sort of thing. That is increasingly a skill that we're looking for in people. And then finally, be the person who finds a way to make things happen in a constructive way. And I'm going to extrapolate on that because I've worked with many people who can make things happen, but at a great expense to the dynamic of a team or people's work-life imbalance or or themselves. Yeah, absolutely. So it's one thing to get things done and always find a way to get things done, but it is truly a gift to be able to get things done in a positive and a constructive way that energizes people. So make it a fun challenge. Build on the ideas and thoughts of others. Be creative. Find new ways to do things. So be the person who gets things done, but in a positive way and by really harnessing the power of your peers and of your team, not just because you're the bull in the china shop and you finally wear everybody down and you get your way, right? So I'm sure you've probably encountered those individuals even in work groups, right? So, but that becomes even more critical in a team, in a management environment, that you can be relentless, but be relentless in a positive way.
Very good advice, particularly around self-care, because I do think that is something that is both become more topical in a work environment, but also it's become something that we aggravate ourselves more and we put upon ourselves more. So that's difficult. I also have 3 pieces of advice. Again, I want to return to the volunteer piece. In particular, I want to talk to you about opportunities at JA. We do recruit. This year we're looking for upwards of 900 to 1,000 volunteers across the province. And what that experience gives you is the opportunity to lead a class. We provide the curriculum. We provide the training. You show up. And what you can put on your resume is that you have actually taught a class. You facilitated curriculum in the classroom. You've led discussions, you've led activities, you've worked with other volunteers. It's a tremendous professional development opportunity. So I would encourage you, if you're considering volunteering and you like JA's mandate, please volunteer. The second is finish your degree. Finish what you start. Granted, your degree may not ultimately point in a straight line in terms of where you are going, but it will always serve you. So please finish what you start. And the final piece is to be opportunistic. Look at what's around you. Activate your network. Talk to your friends, talk to your parents' friends, talk to your professors. Take advantage of the opportunities that come before you because you never know, quite frankly, where they might lead. And we've all talked about how we've sort of fallen into our career. And for me, it was a couple of wonderful, happy circumstances that just evolved out of something that I would have never guessed would have taken me there. So sometimes it's about getting lucky. Thank you.
Okay, I guess what I would say is, if you want to succeed in management, is to ask yourself why you want to be in management, not just to tell other people what to do. It's an old saying. When I was actually did my degree at SMU, everybody gave a definition of what a manager does and what's management and stuff like that, and the professor had a funny response, and it was just like, well, you get other people to do your work. It's much more than that, and it definitely was. It's just a cheeky response, but I would say that if you're going to go into the management field, just to listen to some of the conversation that was here today, I think it's been great advice that has been given, and to also just see if you can talk to other people that are in the management field, and get some of their experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd like to add is look at the managers you have or have had and start to pull out what actually resonated for you. What did you like? What actually was helpful for you? And what will you never, ever do to somebody else? So there's a whole ton of learning, right? That is just through your lived experience. So that would be my piece of advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. That's some great advice and great insights and great answers. I'm sure everyone learned something from this session here today. So if we can give them a round of applause. So now we will open it up to you guys in the audience. Just as a side note, when you ask your question, I will repeat it so the folks online can benefit from that question as well. So who wants to start us off here? Yes. So the question was, can you think of a time when there was someone on your team that you was maybe not manageable or just did not want to be managed? And if you could share an experience and some advice as to how to handle that.
I think we're both eager to answer that one. Because that's a great question, because you will absolutely have this in your career. And I can think of an individual I had who had no ability to see how their behavior impacted others and was so deeply insecure that they could not receive coaching, as they couldn't help but see it as criticism. And you'll absolutely encounter these kinds of individuals, and that was where the psychology degree really came into play, and that ability to help sort of turn questions back to them and get them to self-identify. But I did actually then have to reach a point where, with that individual, I always had a second person in the room when we were having coaching discussions or we were doing reviews, and I documented everything as well, so that there was a good corporate memory of what had transpired in conversations, because ultimately the individual was going to turn things back on others or back on the organization. So you could reach a point with people where you need to sort of protect the organization as well, right? And protect yourself to some extent, that particularly if you're getting into performance management conversations or what have you, that it can't just be a he said, she said. You need to create some of that corporate memory there. But that's an extreme example. You'll probably encounter more moderate examples of that, where again, it's really about then maybe helping them catch in the moment when they're doing something that's been perceived differently by other team members, and helping create and nurture that self-awareness in them, because some people just aren't hardwired that way to know how they're being perceived by others or the impact that they're having on others. Does that answer your question?
I have an interesting example. When you first step into a new organization that's new to you but not to others, you sometimes inherit the effects of past management. And that can be really interesting. And I have had, and whether or not they come to you from outside of the organization or they're part of the organization when you join, it can happen in either scenario. I've had people who've come to me as really quite hurt and damaged from past experience working in a variety of industries and professions. And one person in particular, she was really keen to test me when I joined the organization, and I, not knowing enough about her and not knowing enough about the mandate, I took time to really observe and to listen to her, to figure out what was going on behind the scenes. And what I learned was that she was really, quite frankly, looking for validation. And once I figured that out, the behavior changed immediately. And she's now a member of my senior management team. Because ultimately, she really just wanted to be valued for the very good work she had done, and giving her more responsibility turned her behavior around. And now she's an incredible asset. So I would say you need to take your time and really try to understand. People are complex, and they bring their whole selves to work. right? Including their past experiences. So I find that these matters are very difficult and multidimensional.
I would just like to reinforce that message around getting to know what that individual's issue is. It could be that past difficulty. It could be, we're all telling stories all the time. We all have stories about why are they looking at me like that? Why did they use that? That's the human mind. So getting to know the individual, getting to understand the individual's drive, right? So, the example given about that recognition. For others, it could be a chance to be innovative. For others, it could be micromanagement versus, space working environment. There's just so much that can be at play. So it really, I think it's, as a manager, it really is your responsibility to seek understanding from that person. Seek first understand before being understood.
Thank you. Any more comments? That was a great answer. Any other questions out there? Yes?
As a manager, how do you put your personal feelings about someone that you have to manage aside from what, in the sake of the business? I work in the health business right now, and I just see my supervisors reacting towards one of my colleagues, and they are reacting the way they should. However, there's kind of a foggy area where people know they don't like that individual. So how would you set that aside?
So just for the folks online, the question involved how, as a manager, you can separate your personal feelings towards someone in a professional setting.
I don't think you can, to be honest. I think that you need to develop a level of self-awareness, and you need to see where the opportunity is to bring change to behavior. So whether it's your own behavior in terms of dealing with your own feelings towards a certain person, then it's an examination in yourself about how do I get around this? Like, this is a challenge for me. So what do I need to do? How do I need to extend an olive branch to make this better? If it's behavior you're seeing in other people that you think needs to be addressed, one of the things that I consistently see is I see people ignore that. And they can't. They just can't. So they have to confront it. They have to do it in a proper and appropriate way, but they have to confront it. Whether it's pulling someone aside and saying, you know what, I've watched you do this a couple of times and I'm very concerned about how it makes other people feel. Have you considered? I think you'll find that if you do it in an appropriate way and you do it in a professional way, that the reception will be good. It may not be instantaneous. They might be, but eventually they'll get there. So no, I don't think you can separate it. I used to believe you could compartmentalize yourself. There was like this at-home version of yourself, this at-school version of yourself, and this work version of yourself. Well, all of that is bull. It is. I'm a mother when I'm at work. I'm a CEO when I'm at home. I'm a student when I'm at work. Like, I cannot separate it. You get the whole package. And I think that's just, there needs to be room for that and an understanding of that. But you can't do it unless you build it yourself first.
Yeah, and I would like to echo the courage it takes, right? Because when you were speaking, there was the sense of a bystander, right? And so cultures exist because people don't actually interrupt the cultures in the workplaces. So but it is actually, the hope of everybody is to be in an organization that values professionalism and has diversity and has all the rules and obligations and commitments. And then you're sharing an experience, and so the courage is required to actually interrupt and not be a part of that bystander effect. Good luck, because it does take courage, right? And it might be like practice, role model it, find ways, write it out to get yourself ready to be who you want to be in the workplace, right?
Thank you. We'll probably have time. You guys good with that? Okay. We have time for probably one more question. Does anyone out there have one? Come on. No? Do you guys have any additional insights that you felt you didn't get out during the session you'd like to share?
Did I say the government wants you to?
Perfect.
Thank you guys for the opportunity,
Okay.
and thank you for coming out today.
Good. So another round of applause for our panelists. So Miriam is going to be stamping passports up there, and I will be stamping passports down here. So don't all rush at once.